Hello, anti-novelists and friends. It is a beautiful day in the library, and what better to do on a beautiful day in the library than to do some novel editing. So what I'm going to do today is I want to walk you through stage 1 of editing my novel. Now, there are 3 critical kinds of editing, so I'm going to address each one separately in a video. So first, as you may recall, I loaded all of my pages into a binder, and then I went through with my tabs and I put each chapter or scene behind one of the tabs. And so my little packet goes all the way up to 100 and my chapters and scenes stop at number 90. So there it is. There she is. I'm so happy. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to grab the book vault. Remember, this is where all of my key indexes and outlines, everything that I need to control this beast lives in the book vault. So the tab that I'm interested in today is my chapter index. I'm sure you recognize this little guy. This was my this is actually the 3rd iteration of the chapters index. So now we don't need him anymore. Oh, look at that beautiful baby. So this is an updated version of the chapters index that goes by act. It tracks the story by the day. It's got the title, and I've updated all of my word counts. So at current count, I am sitting at 133,000 words, 175. So, whew, doggies. What we're going to do now is we're going to figure out how to wrangle all of that into a cohesive story. And of course, I will use my little tracker to help me keep track of it and get it all into the right order. So let's talk about this elusive first edit that I'm going to tackle beginning today. The first edit is called a developmental edit, okay? A developmental edit is something that helps you with developing your story, making sure that there's continuity from scene to scene, chapter to chapter, and throughout, and allows you to make sure that everything at a high level fits together and works, okay? So if you hire a developmental editor, they're going to read for story structure, big picture items, making sure things flow and make sense and fit together. They're going to read for bridging your scenes and sequels together into chapters that are cohesive throughout the acts. They're going to look at things like characterization and character motivation and character backstory. It's going to be kind of a collaborative effort if you're working with someone, because they're working back and forth with you to make sure that that whole story at a high level fits together and works. They're going to read for pacing, things like action and tension, and what's your reader's cognitive load? Thank you, Kathleen. And how do you relieve that cognitive load between scenes and chapters so that you keep your reader in suspense, relieved, ready to go again, more tension, relieved, and so forth. They're also going to read for things like backstory and relationships, okay? Do you develop these characters enough throughout the story that they start in one place and they satisfyingly end in another? They're going to read for the kinds of tropes that you're using for your genre. They're going to understand if you're writing a romance and the 2 people don't get together at the end and you end up breaking them up, that's not a romance, right? So they're going to make sure that whatever the hallmarks are for the kind of story that you're writing are all present so that your reader is satisfied at the end. They're also going to very deeply understand your genre, and they're going to understand your reader expectations, because the reason people read in a particular genre is because they love that kind of story. So don't ever feel like my story's already been written. This has already been told. Of course it has. Every story's been told. The important thing is your story is special because you're writing it. Nobody else can write your story. That's why it matters. So quickly, if you're going to hire a developmental or a continuity editor, you're going to look overall at what are their qualifications. The worst thing you can do is hire a developmental editor and they hand you your manuscript back and they say, wow, that was a great book. Okay, that's not helpful as a writer. You need to know what things work, what things don't, and why. So you're going to ask them for specifics. What a developmental editor is not, okay, they're not a line editor. They're not testing your grammar. They're not looking for where the commas are. What's your diction, word choices? What's your style? There's no mechanical input from that person. Okay, so development is just what it sounds like. It's developing the story and checking for continuity across the big picture. However, we're not hiring one. We're going to do it ourselves. In that case, you need to understand this list that I've just given you. And I'm going to create a worksheet once we get into the second and third kinds of editors. And I'm going to line all of this out for you. So you will have a download. If you want to go through and maybe start checking your own story, you'll have some tools from me to you to do that. So the first thing on my list today is I'm going through, I've taken my 4-act story structure out of my Zettellasten and I've put it back in its portable box. And I'm going through and I'm taking out all of the story cards that I used when I wrote my first and second drafts, which is what lives in this binder now. Actually, it's about a third draft, but we can fudge that a little. So I'm taking out all of these little prompts, reminders, ideas, story cards, backstory, what have you. We're taking all those out because I need my plot box to be completely empty. All right, so these out of here. Now, this becomes a new receptacle for me to place my new ideas and things that come to me out of this developmental edit. So now that my box is ready to go, the next thing I can do is I'm going to pull, oh gosh, what did I do with it? See, I lost it already. I'm going to pull my binder. Remember when I went through and I showed you how I use a recycled day planner in order to line out what's happening in my story on a day-to-day basis. And each page gives me 4 character point of view. So I've got my timestamps down the side, and I know on any given day, this is Saturday, March 2nd of 2019, I've got main male, main female, bad guys, and an extra column. So I know where they are in relation to each other the whole time during that day. And I have a day for every day of my story. So when I come over here and I'm looking at my little index, that's what I'm using to guide. Okay, so I'm going back and forth between the day planner and my index of lines and chapters, and that's helping guide me as I start to go through this process. So let's just take a quick example so you can see what it looks like. If you notice here, I've got 32A, 33, 33A, 34A, and 34B. So what those A's and B's are telling me is those are chapters that need attention, okay? There's a problem with continuity. Maybe they need to be bridged together with a chapter or two so that they flow seamlessly. Maybe there's a problem with character that needs some backstory added, or maybe they need some additional details so that my reader is up to speed on what's going to happen next. Maybe I need to put in a clue or a cookie or a breadcrumb that foreshadows something that's going to happen later. Often, by the time you get to the end of the book, or maybe the last act, you discover something that your characters reveal to you, and you think, holy cow, I need to go back to the beginning, hightail it to those early chapters, and plant that so that when my readers get to those characters in the later chapters, those reveals have been planted, which allows my reader to discover them. Satisfying experience. So anytime that you can get to the end of the story and go back to the beginning and plant things, that's a great developmental clue, right? That's a great cue to your reader that just helps bring them deeper into the story. So in this case, let's pop quickly over to the 32 tab and let's just see what's there. Okay, so I've got chapter 32. You'll notice there's no title for that chapter, there's no opening quote, and there's no date. Okay, that's a problem. That's why that one has an A by it, because there's critical header information that needs to be included in this chapter. And then I've got an all caps note, walk and talk to Gretchen's. So that's telling me there's a scene missing in there, or there's a piece of a scene, because my male and female character need to take a walk over to Gretchen's to see her. So whenever I have a note to myself for developmental edits later, I just leave a space, a double space. I do all caps notes to myself, double space again. And then when I see that little A on my tracker and I go to that chapter, I know this is why I flagged it. This is what I need to write now. So that's a real simple, high-level view of what those writer's marks mean. Here's another one. Chapter 34A has no title, no opening quote, and no date. So again, this needs attention. So that's a super quick overview for how you start those developmental edits rolling. I will elaborate on this a little more, and we're going to get into the second and third types of edits, which include the line edits and the proofreading. And I will distinguish between those so that you understand exactly what each one means and why you need to do it. I'm also going to include some resources for you on how to edit your own book. I'm a firm believer that you need to do your own first round of developmental edits because only you know your story. You're not ready to share it with someone else at a high level to read for continuity until you know for yourself that it is thorough, it has continuity, it has good flow, and it feels finished. So that's what I will be reading for. If you need me, I will be over at the desk, furiously scrolling through my plot box and my tracker and my big beastie novel, which is ready for developmental edits. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I'll see you in the next video.